The scream echoed off the jagged rocks like a gunshot in the silence, yanking me from my solitary trance on the trail. I spun around, heart slamming against my ribs, and there he was, crashing through the underbrush like a man fleeing his own shadow. His flannel shirt torn at the sleeve, blood streaking his forearm from a gash that looked fresh and furious. "Help!" he gasped, locking eyes with me, those storm-gray irises wide with something deeper than fear, a plea that cracked the world open between us. I froze on the narrow ledge of the Shenandoah backcountry, the kind of trail that chews up amateurs and spits out legends. It was day 3 of my solo hike through the Blue Ridge Mountains, my ritual escape from the grind of DC life, where deadlines at the nonprofit blurred into night's scrolling grinder for connections that evaporated by morning. At 24, I was chasing clarity in the chaos of Virginia's wild heart, armed with nothing but a battered pack, a half-empty water bottle, and the ghosts of bad dates whispering that love was just a swipe away. But that scream? It wasn't wildlife. It was human, raw unraveling. He stumbled toward me, all 6 feet of him built like a quarterback who traded shoulder pads for a desk job, broad shoulders straining against that ripped flannel, khakis muddied to the knees, and a face that could have graced a Patagonia catalog if not for the wild panic etching lines around his mouth. Mid-30s, maybe, with a jaw shadowed by stubble and hair the color of wet chestnut matted under a faded Nationals cap. His eyes, God, those eyes, held the weight of a man who'd just seen his life flash not in review, but in ruin. "Trail fork," he panted, collapsing against a boulder, clutching his arm where thorns had clawed him open. "I took the wrong one. Phone's dead. No signal." You got a map." I nodded dumbly, slinging my pack off and digging out the crumpled topo sheet, my fingers brushing his as I handed it over. His skin was warm, calloused in a way that spoke of weekend warriors, not full-time adventurers. Up close, he smelled like pine sap and sweat, with a faint undercurrent of cologne. Something crisp, like ocean air in a bottle. "Ethan," I said, extending my free hand, "you're bleeding pretty bad. Let me wrap that." "Ethan," he echoed, as if testing the name like a lifeline, then gripped my hand hard enough to bruise. Jack Harlan. "Thanks, man. Shit, I don't know what I'm doing out here." His laugh was bitter, a bark that dissolved into a wince as I tore a strip from my bandana and pressed it to the wound. Our knees knocked together on the rocky ground, and for a split second, the air thickened, charged like the storm clouds gathering over the ridge. We patched him up quick, me playing field medic with iodine wipes and duct tape, him grumbling apologies between gritted teeth. Turns out he'd driven up from Richmond that morning, a spur-of-the-whim escape from work stuff, whatever that meant. No pack, no gear beyond a water bottle, and that phone now mocking him with 0 bars. The map confirmed it. We'd both veered off the connector onto an unmarked spur, a relic from old logging days that snaked into a ravine no sane hiker followed without a guide. Sunset was 2 hours off, and the temperature was already dipping into that crisp autumn bite that turns mountains into freezers overnight. "Stay with me," I said, folding the map and stuffing it back. We backtracked to the fork, hit the main trail by dark. Easy, lies all of it. The underbrush was thicker than I'd let on, and that scream? It lingered in my ears like a warning. Jack nodded, pushing to his feet with a groan, but his hand lingered on my shoulder a beat too long, steadying himself, or maybe me. "Lead on, Ethan. You're my knight in hiking boots." We pushed off the trail, if you could call it that, narrowing to a goat path choked with laurel and briars that snagged at our legs like jealous lovers. Conversation started halting, the way it does when adrenaline's your third wheel. He was a high school history teacher, he said, with a side gig consulting for a museum downtown. Divorced? No, the ring on his finger caught the fading light like a flare. "Wife's back home," he added, casual as flipping a page. "Kids, boy and a girl." This hike was supposed to be my reset button. I swallowed the pang. Familiar territory. The straight married dad vibe that always circled me like a no-fly zone. "Sounds heavy. What pushed you out here alone?" He hesitated, boots crunching over loose shale. "Ever feel like you're living someone else's story?" like the plot twisted and now you're just reading along. His voice dropped, raw edges fraying. Lately, it's like I'm yelling at the walls, and no one's listening. The words hung there, heavier than the pack on my back. I knew that script, the quiet unraveling, the itch for something real amid the scripted days. My own story? Grew up in a Philly suburb where gay was a punchline until it wasn't. Coming out at 16 to parents who loved me through the awkward silences. Now, in D.C., I fought for queer youth programs, pouring heart into grants and workshops, but my nights? Echo chambers of almost. Tell me about it, I said, holding a branch aside for him. Our fingers brushed again. Accidental, electric. I'm all ears, and zero judgment. As dusk bled into the sky, painting the ridges in bruised purples, we traded fragments. His wife, Laura, was a lawyer, fierce and brilliant, the kind who could argue down a hurricane. Their marriage? Solid on paper, 10 years, 2 kids under 8, a colonial in the fan district with a porch swing that creaked like forgotten promises. But lately, the silences stretched, filled with her late nights at the firm and his grading papers by lamplight, wondering if passion was just a footnote. And you? He asked, voice soft against the rustle of leaves. What's a guy like you doing out here solo? No crew? No boyfriend tagging along? The question landed like a stone in still water. I laughed it off, but my chest tightened. Solo's my speed. Relationships? They're like these trails, full of switchbacks you don't see coming. Truth was, my last one had imploded 6 months back. A barista named Alex who ghosted after I pushed for more than stolen weekends. Since then, hikes were my therapy, the mountains a mirror for the mess inside. We crested a false summit, the ravine yawning below like a dark mouth, and that's when the rain hit. First a spit, then a deluge that turned the path to slick mud. Jack slipped, cursing as he went down hard, me lunging to grab his pack strap. We tumbled together in a tangle of limbs, rolling to a stop against a root ball, his body half over mine, breath hot against my neck. Time stuttered. His weight was solid, grounding, and in that suspended heartbeat, his eyes searched mine. Not for rescue, but recognition. You okay? I whispered, pulse thundering. He didn't move right away, rain plastering his shirt to his chest, outlining the rapid rise and fall. Yeah, more than okay. His hand flexed on my arm, thumb tracing a vein, and the world narrowed to that touch, that gaze. Then thunder cracked, shattering the spell, and he rolled off, hauling me up with a sheepish grin. Heroes don't let sidekicks drown. We pressed on, soaked and shivering, the trail vanishing into a creek-swollen gully. By full dark, we were officially lost. Map useless in the downpour, compass needle spinning like my thoughts. We hunkered under an overhang of granite, sharing my emergency bivvy like a fragile tent, knees touching in the cramped space. The storm raged outside, lightning etching his profile in stark silver. Strong nose, lips parted on unspoken words. Tell me something true, he said, voice barely above the roar. Something you'd never say back home. I hesitated, the air thick with humidity and possibility. I think love isn't about finding the right person. It's about building a story that scares you enough to keep turning the pages. He turned his head, eyes locking on mine in the dim glow of my headlamp. Mine? I've spent 10 years writing a script where I'm the good guy, the husband, the dad. But every night, I lie awake wondering if the character's a lie. The confession hung there, vulnerable as the rain-lashed night. I reached out, not thinking, and cupped his jaw, rough stubble under my palm, his breath hitching. Then rewrite it, Jack. You're the author. Our faces drifted closer, the pull magnetic, inevitable. His lips met mine, tentative at first, then hungry, tasting of salt and storm. It was a kiss born of desperation, of truths too long buried, and in that moment, under the indifferent sky, the mountains didn't judge. They just held us, witnesses to a spark igniting in the dark. We pulled apart, gasping, foreheads pressed together, the weight of what we'd done settling like dew. Ethan, he murmured, voice wrecked. It's. I know, but I didn't. Not yet. The rain eased to a drizzle, and sleep came fitful. His arm slung over my waist like an anchor. Dawn would bring clarity or catastrophe. For now, in the bivvy's cocoon, we were just two men, lost and found in equal measure. Sunrise pierced the overhang like a hesitant promise, gilding the ravine in hesitant gold. I woke to Jack's steady breathing against my shoulder, his body heat a barrier against the night's chill that had seeped into my bones. For a long moment, I lay there, tracing the lines of his face in the soft light. The faint scar above his eyebrow, the way his lashes fanned dark against his cheeks. Last night's kiss lingered on my lips, a phantom ache, but reality crashed in with the rustle of his wedding ring against the nylon fabric. He stirred, eyes fluttering open, and for a heartbeat, his gaze was soft, unguarded, the man who'd confessed his fractures in the dark. Then memory flooded in, and he jerked back, scrambling to sit up, rubbing his face like he could erase the evidence. Shit, Ethan, last night. That was a mistake, I supplied, sitting up too, the bivvy suddenly claustrophobic. My voice came out steadier than I felt, but inside, my heart was a drum solo, erratic and loud. No. God, no. He ran a hand through his hair, leaving it in wild spikes. Intense. Real. But I'm Laura. The kids. I can't just. He broke off, staring at the ring like it was a handcuff. What the hell are we doing? I swallowed hard, the taste of him still fresh. Surviving. Figuring it out as we go. But yeah, complications. Understatement of the century. He was straight-passing married with a family photo probably beaming from his wallet, and I was the queer activist who'd built a life on dismantling exactly this kind of closet. Yet here we were, tangled in the aftermath, the mountains mocking our fragile bubble. We broke camp in silence, packing the bivvy with mechanical efficiency, the air humming with unsaid words. The rain had carved new rivulets in the gully, turning our path into a slippery gauntlet of boulders and mud. As we descended, conversation trickled back, cautious at first, skirting the edges of the night. He asked about my work, and I told him about the youth center in D.C., the kids I'd mentored through their own coming-outs, the trans teen who'd inked a pride flag on his arm after our first group session, the quiet boy from rural Virginia who'd whispered his first, "I think I'm gay," like a secret weapon. That's brave, Jack said, navigating a root-choked stretch, helping them own their stories. Wish I had that kind of guts at their age. You do? I shot back, glancing over my shoulder. You're out here, rewriting yours right now. He paused on a flat rock, the ravine walls rising sheer around us like nature's confessional. Is that what this is? Rewriting. His eyes searched mine, stormy again, and I saw the war raging. Duty versus desire, fear versus the fire we'd kindled. Before I could answer, a crack split the air. Not thunder, but rockfall. Loose shale from the night's torrent gave way above, a cascade of stones tumbling toward us like Judgment Day. Jack! I yelled, shoving him sideways as a grapefruit-sized chunk clipped my calf, pain blooming hot and sharp. We hit the ground rolling, debris pummeling our backs, the world a blur of grit and adrenaline. When it stopped, we were sprawled in a thicket of ferns, bruised and breathless. His hand found mine in the dust, squeezing hard. You saved me. Again. Up close, his face was smudged with dirt, a cut on his cheek from a flying shard, but his smile, crooked, genuine, lit something fierce in my chest. Team effort, I muttered, wincing as I probed my leg. Just a deep bruise, thank God. No breaks. We bandaged up with the last of my kit, our touches lingering now. Fingers on skin, eyes holding promises. The fall had shaken loose more than rocks. Barriers crumbled in the dust. By midday, hunger gnawed, and we foraged what we could. Wild ramps and berries from the understory. A meager lunch eaten cross-legged on a mossy log. Stories flowed freer now, lubricated by survival's intimacy. He spoke of his dad, a stoic Korean war vet who died without ever saying, "I love you," leaving Jack to chase approval in straight A's and football trophies. College at UVA brought freedom, beer pong, late-night debates, but also the first flicker of confusion. A roommate's casual arm around his shoulder that lingered too long, stirring questions he buried under frat parties and his first girlfriend. Laura was safe, he admitted, popping a berry like a confession. She saw the husband material, the provider. We built this life, soccer games, PTA meetings, the American dream in picket fence wrapping. But sometimes, at night, I wonder if I'm performing, if the role fits anymore. I listened, heart aching for the boy he'd been, the man he was becoming. It's not a performance if it's you owning it. Gay, by whatever label. It's just the truth under the costume. He looked at me then, really looked, and the air shifted, charged with the unspoken. And you, Ethan? What's your truth look like? I leaned back against the log, the sun dappling through leaves like scattered coins. Messy. Honest. I came out loud. Protests, pride marches, the whole spectacle. But deep down, I'm terrified of being left behind, of pouring everything into someone and watching them choose the script over the story. Our knees touched, a deliberate bridge. "I'd choose the story," he said softly, and this time, when he leaned in, the kiss was slower, deliberate. A mapping of regrets and hopes, his hand cradling my neck like I was fragile, precious. The forest held its breath, birdsong resuming only after we'd parted, flushed and undone. We hiked on, the ravine bottoming out into a wider valley where a stream chuckled over pebbles, clear as redemption. But freedom brought its own perils. No trail markers, just endless folds of green and gray. We followed the water upstream, hoping it led to the park boundary. But dusk found us still adrift, the temperature plummeting as fog rolled in like a shroud. That night, we built a fire, dry tinder from under bark, my lighter flickering to life under his steady hands. Sparks danced upward, mirroring the ones between us. Dinner was stream trout, clumsily caught and roasted on green sticks, flaky and sweet. Around the flames, shadows played on his face, softening the hard edges. "Tell me about the kids," I said, poking the embers. Neutral ground. His face lit up, fierce and tender. "Owen's 6, obsessed with dinosaurs, wants to be a paleontologist. Emma's 4, all curls and questions. Last week, she asked why Daddy looks sad sometimes. Broke me." He stared into the fire, voice thickening. "What kind of father does that make me? Dragging my mess into their world. The kind who loves hard enough to fix it," I replied. "They'll see that strength." He reached across the flames, taking my hand, the warmth seeping deeper than skin. "You make me believe that, like maybe I can be more than the guy in the suit." The fire crackled, a third voice in our vigil. We talked until stars pricked the canopy, about dreams deferred, like his unpublished novel on Civil War ghosts, or my half-baked plan for a queer history trail app. Laughter came easier, a bomb against the unknown. But as embers died to glow, he pulled me close, our bodies aligning under shared blankets scavenged from ferns. No more kisses that night, just holding, his heartbeat syncing with mine, a rhythm of what-ifs. Sleep claimed us, but not gently. I dreamed of trails forking endlessly, Jack vanishing into fog, his ring a beacon pulling him back. I woke to his murmur, "Ethan, something's wrong," and the distant howl of wind through the pass. Dawn revealed it. The stream had swollen overnight, a muddy torrent blocking our way, rapids foaming like rage. "We can't cross," I said, stomach dropping. "Not without rope." Jack's jaw set, that teacher steel surfacing. Then we climb. Ridge above. Looks like it loops back to the main trail. His eyes met mine, resolute. Together, we started the ascent, hands linked over sheer faces, the drop a whisper away. Halfway up, his foot slipped on lichen-slick rock, and he dangled, my grip the only tether. "Don't let go," he gasped, fear raw. "Never," I promised, hauling with everything I had. Muscle burned, veins screamed, but we crested together, collapsing in exhausted triumph. In that heap, sweat slick and alive, he kissed me fierce. Gratitude, terror, love all tangled. "You're my truth," he whispered against my mouth. But truths have teeth. As we crested the ridge, civilization glinted. A ranger truck's flashers, distant voices calling. Rescue. Home. And the collision course waiting. The ranger's jeep idled like a lifeline at the trailhead overlook, its yellow beacon cutting through the midday haze as we stumbled into view. Disheveled, limping, but whole. "Holy hell, you two look like you wrestled a bear," the driver hollered. A burly guy named Tom with a mustache that screamed park service vet. He tossed us water bottles and protein bars, radioing base with our cords while we slumped against the hood. The Blue Ridge sprawling below like a rumpled quilt. Jack leaned beside me, shoulder brushing mine, our secret humming beneath the exhaustion. "We made it," he said low, a grin cracking his dirt-streaked face. His hand found my knee, a hidden squeeze, intimate, illicit. In that moment, with the sun high and rescue real, it felt possible. Us against the odds. Tom dropped us at the visitor center, where hot coffee and first aid kits waited like minor miracles. I texted my roommate, alive, epic detour. Home tomorrow. Signal strength flooding back with a vengeance. Jack did the same, his face tightening as he typed. Found. Safe. Love you. To Laura, I assumed. The words landed like a gut punch, reminding me of the chasm between our worlds. "You heading back to Richmond?" I asked, nursing a blister as we sat on the center's porch, the scent of pine and espresso mingling. He nodded, eyes on the horizon. "Yeah, gotta pick up the kids from soccer. Normal life." The word twisted on his tongue, bitter as oversteeped tea. "What about you?" "DC. Train tonight, if the leg holds." I flexed my calf, sore, but serviceable. Silence stretched, heavy with the unsaid. The kisses, the confessions, the fragile bridge we'd built in isolation. "Jack, about us." He set his cup down, turning to face me fully. "Ethan, these days, lost with you. They're the first time in years I've felt seen. Not the husband, not the dad. Just Jack." His voice cracked, raw. "But I can't append everything. Not yet." I nodded, throat tight. "I get it. But don't let it end here. Call me. Text. Something." His hand covered mine on the railing, thumb stroking my knuckles. A vow in miniature. "I will. Promise." Then he stood, pulling me into a hug that lingered, his chin on my shoulder, breath warm. "Thank you. For everything." The drive to the station was awkward. Tom's chatter filling the void, Jack in the back seat staring out at passing ridges like they held answers. At the platform, he walked me to the edge, the Amtrak whistle keening in the distance. "Take care of that leg," he said, then softer. "Take care of you. You too." Our goodbye kiss was chaste. A brush of lips in the shadow of the depot, but it sealed something deeper, a pact against the pull of normalcy. The train rattled north, mountains giving way to suburbs, my mind replaying every touch, every word. By DC, I was buzzing, showered, bandaged, crashing at my apartment with a beer and my journal, scribbling feverishly. He felt like home, but homes can burn. Sleep came dream-haunted, Jack's gray eyes haunting the dark. Days blurred into routine. Grant proposals at the office, coffee runs with colleagues dissecting the latest SCOTUS whispers on trans rights. My phone stayed silent. No ping from Jack, just the ghost of his promise. By week 2, doubt crept in, a slow poison. "Married men don't leave the script," my inner cynic whispered. I threw myself into work, leading a workshop for at-risk queer teens. Their stories a mirror to my own fragile hope. Then, 3 weeks post-hike, it came, a text at 2 a.m. "Can't stop thinking about you. Richmond feels like a cage. Coffee soon?" Heart leaping, I replied instantly. "Name the place." Saturday, neutral ground, a cafe in Arlington, midway between our lives. He was already there when I arrived, nursing a black coffee at a corner table, looking every inch the professor in chinos and a button-down. But his eyes, stormy, searching, betrayed the turmoil. We hugged awkward over the table, the barista's glance lingering a beat too long. "You look good," he said, voice low. Healing up. Mostly. I slid into the seat, knees bumping his under the formica. You. Surviving. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Laura's buried in a case. Merger gone south. Kids are great, but Ethan, being back, it's like the hike never happened. Like I'm gaslighting myself. I reached for his hand, lacing fingers despite the risk. It happened. We happened. The words were a lifeline, and he clung, recounting the weeks. Stolen glances at my photo on his phone, dreams that left him waking hard and guilty. A fight with Laura over nothing that cracked open the fault lines. I've been reading, he confessed, flushing. Forums, books, the velvet rage that won on late-blooming queerness. It's like puzzle pieces snapping in. Pride swelled, mingled with ache. That's huge, Jack. Proud of you. We talked for hours, the cafe emptying around us, plans forming. Weekend hikes, no ravine this time. Movie nights in D.C., his cover story a grading retreat. It felt real, tentative shoots pushing through concrete. That night, he drove me home, parking under a street lamp where kisses turned heated. Hands roaming shirts, breaths fogging windows. Soon, he murmured, pulling back. I need to tell her first. The betrayal came swift, surgical, a Thursday evening 3 months in. I just wrapped a panel on queer visibility when my phone buzzed. Not Jack, but a mutual from the trailhead grapevine. A hiker who'd connected dots. Saw your guy, Jack Harlan, with his family at the zoo. Looked cozy. Ring shining. Thought you should know. Heart plummeting. I scrolled his socials. Private, but glimpses leaked. A tagged photo from Laura's firm picnic. Jack arm in arm with her. Kids on his shoulders. Caption. Family first. Always. Blessed. No mention of me, of us. The coffee dates? Work trips. Our texts. Archived ghosts. Rage boiled, hot and humiliating. I drove to Richmond that night, uninvited, unhinged. Banging on his colonial door at midnight, the porch light flickering on like an accusation. He answered in sweats, eyes widening in horror. Ethan? What? You lied. The words exploded, venomous. Family first? While I'm falling for your half-truths. Laura appeared behind him, robe clutched tight, confusion sharpening to suspicion. Jack? Who's this? He stammered, face ashen. A friend. From the hike. Ethan, please. Friend. I laughed, bitter shards. Tell her, then. Tell her about the kisses, the promises. Or are you still rewriting solo? The air thickened, electric with implosion. Laura's gaze darted between us, piecing it. The hike. That solo trip. Her voice was steel, lawyer sharp. Jack. He deflated, shoulders slumping. Laura, I didn't plan this. It just. Save it. She turned away, voice breaking on the stairs. Guest room. Now. I stormed off, tires screeching into the night, tears blurring taillights. Betrayal wasn't the knife, it was the twist. Realizing I'd been the plot twist he regretted. Days bled into numbness. Work on autopilot, hike solo and savage, carving anger into miles. Jack's texts flooded. I'm sorry. Telling her everything. Please talk. I deleted them one by one, building walls higher than the ridges. But cracks formed. A kid at the center sharing his own heartbreak, mirroring my rage. A colleague's quiet, you're stronger than this over lunch. The climax hit a month later, a blistering July eve. My phone rang, Laura's number, unknown but unmistakable. Ethan? It's Laura Harlan. We need to talk. Dread coiled, but I met her at a park bench in Alexandria, neutral as truce flags. She was poised, even in yoga pants and ponytail. 40s with the kind of beauty that commanded rooms. No venom, just weariness. Jack told me. All of it. She handed me a photo. Our hike, snapped by a ranger. Us laughing by the fire, hands close. I came out here thinking betrayal, she said, voice steady. But it's bigger. He's known deep down since college. Buried it for us, for the life we built. The kids. God. The kids. Tears welled, hers and mine. I'm not here to fight. I'm here because he loves you. And I love him enough to let him choose. The words gutted me. He chose you. Not anymore. She stood, resolute. Go to him. Make him whole. I found Jack at the trailhead where it started, sitting on that same boulder, ring gone, face haggard. She knows, he said as I approached, voice wrecked. Divorce papers drawn. I chose wrong before. Not now. Conflict raged. Trust shattered. Heart scarred. You broke me, Jack. How do I know this isn't round two? He rose, closing the distance, eyes pleading. You don't. But I'm here. All in. Let me prove it. The kiss that followed was storm and salve. Tears mingling, bodies crashing like waves on rock. Not passion's fire, but healing's slow burn. A climax of surrender, where betrayal's sting yielded to forgiveness's fragile bloom. Autumn returned to the Blue Ridge like an old friend, leaves torching the hills in crimson and gold. 2 years after that first lost trail, Jack and I crested the connector hand in hand, packs light, the ravine below a distant memory rather than a scar. His cabin, our cabin now, waited at the base, a fixer-upper we'd claimed in the divorce settlement, its porch swing creaking under the weight of new stories. Life hadn't unfolded in neat chapters. The split with Laura was civil but seismic. Shared custody carved weekends into mosaics, therapy sessions unpacking decades of denial. Jack came out publicly, first to colleagues, who rallied with awkward hugs and lesson plan swaps, then to Owen and Emma, who absorbed it with kid logic. Does this mean 2 Christmases? Pride came later, him marching beside me in D.C., sign reading late bloomer. Full bloom held high, my hand in his the whole way. Betrayal's echo lingered, a shadow we navigated in quiet nights, me flinching at silences, him overcompensating with grand gestures. Surprise tickets to a Nats game, or that tattoo on his wrist, a compass rose etched with found. Counseling helped, our therapist a no-nonsense lesbian with a dry wit who called our bullshit and celebrated our wins. Love's not a straight line, she'd say. It's a switchback. Keep climbing. My work flourished in the afterglow. The queer history app launched, trails mapped with stories of outcasts and outlaws. Stonewall echoes in Shenandoah hollers. Jack contributed, his historian's eye weaving in forgotten queer figures. The black drag queens of Harlem Renaissance roadshows, the coded letters of Civil War soldiers. We co-led workshops now, him sharing his late awakening, me the firebrand, our voices braiding authenticity. But the humanistic core? It bloomed in the small graces, like Saturday mornings with the kids. Owen, now 8, building forts from couch cushions while grilling Jack on boyfriend rules. Emma, 6 and fierce, declaring me bonus dad after I taught her to skip stones. They knew the truth, age-appropriate, laced with love, and in their easy acceptance, Jack found absolution. They're teaching me, he'd say, watching them chase fireflies in the yard. Kids don't do closets. One evening, as fireflies danced and the grill smoked with burgers, Laura arrived unannounced, dropping off Emma's forgotten backpack, lingering on the porch with a bottle of wine. Awkward at first, then thawing. Stories of her own dating fumbles. A laugh shared over Owen's latest dinosaur obsession. No villains here, just humans fumbling toward wholeness. You too, she said, clinking glasses. You're good for him, for them. That night, after tucking the kids into bed, there's a weekend ritual of ghost stories and goodnight hugs. Jack and I collapsed on the swing, stars wheeling overhead. His head on my shoulder, fingers tracing lazy patterns on my thigh. Remember the ravine? He murmured. Thought I'd die there, lost alone. I kissed his temple, tasting salt and home. You found your way. We found it. His voice thickened, emotions undercurrent. Ethan, marrying you next spring like we planned. It's not the end. It's the page turn. The proposal had been simple, mountain true. Atop that ridge, ringless but ringed by wildflowers he'd planted. Down on one knee with a compass engraved true north. You. I'd said yes through tears, the yes that echoed all our yeses, the choice to risk, to rewrite, to love without apology. But stories aren't tidy bows. They're living breaths. Challenges came. Jack's school board grumbling over lifestyle curriculum. My grant funding slashed in a red wave backlash. We fought them shoulder to shoulder. Petitions, protests, bedtime rants that ended in laughter and limbs entwined. Intimacy grew layered, not just bodies but souls. Quiet mornings reading poetry, hikes where silence spoke volumes. One winter, the climax revisited. Not in storm, but storm's child. A custody hearing loomed, Laura's new partner a wild card. Whispers of unstable environment from conservative corners. Jack paced the cabin, ghosts rising. What if they take them? What if I'm not enough? I pulled him to the window, snow blanketing the woods like fresh starts. You're everything. We fight with truth. And we did. Affidavits from therapists, letters from the kids, my testimony on the family we'd forged. The judge, a silver-haired woman with kind eyes, ruled in our favor. Joint, equal, stable. Relief crashed like waves, Jack sobbing in my arms on the courthouse steps, the world blurring to us. I was so scared, he gasped. Me too. But in the fear, we'd uncovered deeper truths. Love's not absence of storm, but dancing in it. Spring brought the wedding, small Shenandoah style. Under an arbor of dogwood, Owen is ring-bearer with a pillow of polished stones. Emma scattering petals with gleeful abandon. Laura stood witness, her smile genuine. Our friends a rainbow chorus. Vows were raw. Jack's, I choose you. Every switchback, mine in your truths. I find mine. Rings exchanged, simple bands, engraved with trails. The reception spilled into dusk, laughter and bluegrass under string lights. As stars emerged, Jack pulled me aside to the trail's edge, the ravine of velvet shadow below. 2 years ago, I was lost, he said, hands framing my face. You were my map, and you my compass. Our kiss sealed it, soft and sure, the mountains bearing witness once more. Years folded forward, Owen's first crush, a boy from art class, handled with Jack's gentle wisdom. Emma's school play where she played a queer inventor, unscripted. Jack's novel published, Trails Untrod, a fictional echo of us, dedicating sales to queer youth. My app expanded nationwide, stories crowdsourced from hikes like ours. But the deepest humanity? In the ordinary sacred. Anniversaries with pie from the diner, arguments over dishes that ended in make-up slow dances. The quiet knowledge that love isn't perfection, but persistence. One hike, 5 years on, we paused at that boulder, the first hello. Kids scampered ahead, Laura trailing with her partner, a picnic basket swinging. Jack slung an arm around me, gray eyes clear as mountain streams. We got lost together, he said, and found a truth neither expected, that love's the trail worth every turn. I leaned into him, heart full. And the view from here? Worth it all. In America's wild heart, amid switchbacks and sunsets, we walked on. Husbands, fathers, survivors. Not a fairy tale, but a testament. That truths, once unearthed, light the way home.